Hey everyone, once again filmed an entire video with zero energy, but hey, season 3, episode 2 in the books, enjoyed it. Let's get into the video, a little different this time. Enjoy. Hi everyone, just a heads up, this is going to be a bit more of a raw video than usual, as I was hitting upload on my last video, and a couple minutes later the CPU fried on my computer. Um, I don't really think this one can handle the cheap editing software I use, so it's going to be a lot longer format with a lot less cuts because I'm pretty sure this laptop will explode if I try to actually edit anything. But with that out of the way, we continue our march towards the last battle with a metric boatload of character additions, starting with the royal family in this episode. We are introduced to Queen Morghese off the jump, fresh off winning a succession battle after the woman who was supposed to be queen mysteriously disappeared. Now her slitting her opponent's throats, I did not see coming. That was particularly brutal. And throughout the episode, although Morghese was always kind of stern and competent in her leadership, she seems much more abrasive and forward. She has a character arc in the books that I won't get into because of the spoilers, but I'm wondering if they're kind of starting her off in this arc. However, the flashback of her kind of killing her enemies has me think this is just kind of how she's going to be. But this also might be a selective memory kind of thing from when I was reading the books and her character. Because, for lack of better words, she's not exactly something I'm 100% paying attention to. So it could have always been this way, and I just wasn't really reading between the lines for it. Also, I'm reading from her daughter's perspective a lot of times, so her opinion of her mother is going to be a little softer than maybe what it actually was. Which, to touch on that flashback, she had just brought the nation together and ended a succession war. Um, I was curious how murdering these other noble women in cold blood, when it seems like they were surrendering, wouldn't that not make it worse? Um, would they have not gone to Camelin with an army? Um, but then I kind of looked at it and it was like, are the people that slit their throats their own like bannermen? Because the one girl that got killed was wearing like a green outfit. The guy behind her was green. Their banner was green. So maybe this was the rest of the houses coming to an agreement with Morghese and standing behind her. So maybe it was actually them coming together stronger. If anyone has any more input on that, by all means, please let me know because I was kind of all over the place on how I interpreted that. Next up, we have Lord Gabriel, her consort, a handsome, well-spoken man that the children in Morghese seem to confide in, but he's not very important to the story, so I will just move on to the other two, which we have Gawain and Galad. They're introduced in this kind of dramatic fashion in the episode, from the royal entrance to them training in the warders' yards, all the novices accepted, even some full sisters fawning over them, and even beyond that, them flanking Matt's bedchambers with the sound of Christmas cheer. It's no secret that the show has made characters much more kind of progressive in their sense of sexuality. I'm still not 100% sold on it. I think sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it feels like it's a bridge too far, trying to keep up with certain audience demographics. For Gowan, it feels a little more understandable. For Galad, I'm less optimistic. One of the few things I liked about his character was that he's kind of this morally black and white guy to a fault. But as time goes on and the real world forces him to make decisions, he has to come to terms with the fact that the real world is not so simple. I did really enjoy their sparring scene, and I feel like it did a great job capturing the atmosphere of when they first began training at the White Tower. Do I think it was a smidge over the top? Just a little. And just a quick note on the royal entrance. I enjoyed them showing Swan making her wait before entering, kind of showing this Tarvalon standing above all the crowns. I thought the costume designs were stunning, and the way the entrance was coordinated felt nice and regal. They have a back and forth between each other all episode, but Morghese gets more and more bold throughout, which she is rightly concerned about the safety of her daughter and heir to the throne. After all, she did murder all of her opposition solely to protect her daughter's claim to the seat. She can't have her just being killed under the White Tower's watch. Which brings us to our next story point, which is that Swan wants Nynaeve and Elaine to hunt down the Black Aja and the weapons they stole from the tower. Two tower trainees, not even full Aes Sedai, will have to hunt down women who are willing to slit their sisters' throats on sight in the street, ready to go. However, they do have a massive advantage over full Aes Sedai. They may not be properly trained yet, but perhaps far more powerful. They can still lie. So they can go undercover, they can lie to people, they can work things out because they're not bound by the three oaths yet, which could come in handy in a pinch. I'm looking forward to how this story arc kind of transforms them as they're thrust into the greater world on their own, away from the protection of their communities, specifically Elaine. I mean, she's had some growth so far, but like there's a lot more there for her. I was wondering if they were going to address Matt parading the Horn of Valir around Tar Valon like a giant flag, and they did in this episode, and it was in the scene I quite enjoyed. Swan's just kind of grilling him about, you wouldn't just parade around the street with known dark friends that you have the Horn of Valir, right? And just the way that the actor kind of was just sitting there kind of like squirming in his seat. I thought it was really entertaining and kind of a nice... It was just a good little scene, good little Matt Swan scene. Two characters that can banter very well. But then the conversation kind of takes a turn towards a more serious note with her talking about, how some of the greatest heroes were ones that were just doing what was required at the time that they were needed. Then setting up this kind of theme for Matt's characters falls in line with, his future development and how things are going to roll out. And I'm looking forward to what they choose to do and include in this development. What story arcs, what events, what things that maybe he can accomplish, and see what they go from there. There's just so many, and I understand the fact that they're not all going to make it. That's just how it is. But I think Matt's development is one that a lot of people are looking forward to, and I hope they get it right. Egwene is still kind of clearly being affected by the PTSD from the Sanchan. However, there is an additional development in this episode. It's kind of pointed out to us that she has these bruises on her neck, consistent with like being strangled and choked. And we know she's kind of suffering them in the dream world when she's having these visions of Rhenna like choking her out. And just to remind you, any injury in the world of dreams, you take with you back into the waking world. So like if someone was to cut your arm in the dream world, you're getting a cut, you're waking up with a cut. Hit or miss. You die in the world of dreams, you die in real life. But it's kind of revealed to us in this episode that what she thinks is Rhenna in her dreams is actually Lanfear in disguise, torturing her for what I am assuming is jealousy that she's with Rand. This not only gives depth to how evil Lanfear is, but how desperate she is for Rand's love. Part of me does wonder why she wouldn't just kill Egwene in her sleep, but obviously that can't happen at this time, and I don't think it was ever discussed previously. I'm like thinking in my head, like, why didn't she just kill Egwene? But let me know if you remember why, or if it's just like a weird, like she just doesn't want to do it. But anyways, really feeling for Egwene right now, and just this constant fear and PTSD towards the Sanchan is really like they're building it up very well, and I hope they keep doing it properly, and I hope the payoff is as good as I think it's going to be. As for Rand, I'm just gonna be kind of quick with him, which isn't something I enjoy saying in a video like this, but seeing him train swords with Lan and showing his control over the power of Moiraine was enjoyable to see after the last two seasons of kind of hit or miss, which is in line with kind of the development and the pace that they're going. His description of the difference of channeling the male source with Moiraine is part of an ongoing theme throughout the series, where the female channelers in Rand's life try to explain how to channel to him. They try to heal him, fix his problems, basically be like, oh no, Rand, you have to do this. It's so simple. And Rand is basically just like so messed up, injured, tainted, overall crazy, that they just kind of have to accept that he's someone they can't fix with a weave. There is no sidestepping his fate. And that is kind of like the acceptance of that as time goes on, and just the overall realization of like in the other episode, Moraine's like, you can't go back to the two rivers. You can't. Like, this is your life. You're the Dragon Reborn now. And, Rand over time comes to accept that, and it's a very heavy weight. And I think his friends over time have to come to accept that and understand that, like, this is Rand's destiny. He's chosen one. Like, that means a lot. So they're doing a good job of showing those little scenes here and there that I really enjoyed in the books. Like, one of them, I think they actually ended up skipping it, but like there's a scene where they try to go and like heal his sword wound, and they're just like, holy crap, this is evil. Like, how are you alive? How are you not crying? Anyways, moving on from Rand. I don't really have any comments on Moiraine from this episode. All I know is that she kind of stays scheming, and her hat goes extremely hard. That's a 10 out of 10 costume design thing. Her conversation with Aviendha about the Aiel prophecies being much more complex, I really enjoyed. Because kind of Moiraine has been, she's had this plan about Kalandor. Now Rand is heading to the Waste. So she's being open to all this new information, and she's such like a calculated person. She's just trying to figure out like what the next step is, how she's going to help Rand. And I think she's, as this season goes on, is slowly going to have to accept the fact that like she's going to have to transform from like leading Rand along to helping him along as he forges his own path. So it'll be interesting to watch how that happens. Right at the end of the episode, our party is heading to Rhuidean, finally reaches the border of the Aiel Waste, and is confronted by a group of Aiel that we've never seen before, except for one of them. Initially coming off kind of hostile, we quickly realize they mean them no harm. I don't want to get into future episode spoilers or set expectations for these characters, but one of them is a favorite of mine as the series progresses. This person's leadership ability routinely comes in hand for Rand and the others, and I can't wait to get to know them as the episodes go on and the series develops. It's like one of those people you just really like hanging around. They're not a main character, but like when they're there, it's like, yeah, my boy or girl. But perhaps one of the more defining arcs from the fourth book is Perrin heading to the Two Rivers. He's finally made it with Loial, Bane, and Jihad, and right off the bat, I really like how they did the Waygate with the access leaf and what it looks like opening for non-channelers. I also love the filming location that they chose in the mountains over the Two Rivers. It's just like every time they go back, it's beautiful. Love it. And I thought the Waygate scene was just great. As far as the story arc, it seems like they're going to keep it as close to the books as possible within the bounds that they've already set. I'm hoping that this includes both the brutality and the emotion that exists in the books for this storyline. Quick side note, I really like the Bane and Jihad so far. Not enough that I can forgive the severe lack of my favorite Aiel, Gaul. But in terms of supporting characters, they're great so far, and maybe they can make it up to me, but they won't be able to. We need Gaul. Bring him next season. That's all I want. Bring him in. All in all, this was another solid episode with a ton of characters being introduced and multiple plots being forwarded. However, the pacing still feels manageable if you're paying attention. Maybe I'm not a good judge since I already know what's going on in the story relatively, so I can follow it easier. I really dig the royal family, and the costuming in this episode I thought was amazing. I still feel like they pushed the envelope a little too far with some of the modernization of the character sexuality sometimes, and tend to take some of the grit out of the universe. The scene with Gowan and Galad training was fun, but it was almost kind of excessive. However, in terms of how some things have been going on in the show so far, this was still a massive improvement. I will say, though, as I was typing this out, I was kind of thinking, I was like, what if this scene is more through the eyes of Matt, which would make how over the top and gaudy it was make more sense. So like we're watching from his perspective. So like all the kisses and the blowing and the people fawning is kind of like how his internal monologue would be saying it. Like, so if we're book readers reading it in the Matt POV, that's what it's going to seem like compared to some other people. All in all, I thought this was a strong episode with lots of plot threads beginning to weave, characters being introduced properly, and just better time management for the total runtime. With that being said, in this video being uploaded, I can now go watch episode 3. So I will soon see you again as soon as I get my thoughts together for that, and hopefully I can get my desktop back together so I can kind of shorten these chunks down. But anyways, good episode after a very strong first episode. Maybe just a lull in action, but that's gonna set, you can't have a 15-minute battle scene every episode and move this plot along. So anyways, here's to a great start of season 3. Have a great day, and I will see you after I watch episode 3.